Today I will discuss red flags, or some traits and behaviors that are from a male perspective warning signs for a long-term relationship. I will tell you why they are a bad prognosis, and why for a long-term relationship you should look for a partner who shows them as little as possible. We're starting. If your goal is to find a decent girl for a long-term relationship, not only should you not, but you cannot rely on her appearance for a very simple reason. If even the woman will be the most beautiful in the world and will have a fatal character, then such a relationship sooner or later with great likelihood will collapse. Beauty is far too little to make up for the terrible costs of a toxic relationship, which you will see as you gain experience in relationships. Even if the relationship survives, remember that beauty will pass away and character will remain. At the beginning of a dating, most often everyone pretends. He does this in order to stand out as best he can, to make the best impression and to present himself from the best side possible. If you believe that only the interior matters, then go for the proverbial coffee and unruly and dirty clothes. And try to convince your date that the most important thing is the interior. I wish you good luck. For this reason, people at the beginning of the acquaintance for every chance watch each other and wear masks. The exception is a situation where a person has produced or innate self-confidence, and sometimes even arrogance, and therefore has options. This works for both sexes. However, most people, men and women, in order not to waste a potential opportunity in any case, will behave correctly, at least when he wants something from you. However, there are certain behaviors that proclaim problems in the relationship. Here they are. The first warning sign, the red flag, is disrespect for people. Most often at first, this disrespect will not be directed and shown to you, because you're the target to fall in love and get into a relationship. So in relation to you, the lady will try to behave as best she can. I call this a demo version. Smiles, applause, compliments to your side, of course, unordinary but gentle, so that it was nice and pleasant. However, pay attention to how he behaves and relates to outsiders, and specifically to people from whom he can get nothing. The waitresses in the restaurants, the expeditioners in the store, the taxi drivers, and others of this kind. If he doesn't respect them, sooner or later, when the demo ends, he will stop respecting you. The second warning sign, somehow derived from the first one, is arrogance. If the lady you're dating is excessively prejudiced, that is, she has an exaggerated opinion of herself. She knows everything best, but she's wise. Despite the fact that he has practically little knowledge in the areas he is talking about, it is a warning sign. If it occurs at the beginning of an acquaintance, it announces that if you enter into this relationship, then there is a huge chance that at a later stage, for example, being a couple, it will develop to a continuous decrease in your value, because your, I assume, healthy self-esteem will be a threat to her. To make yourself feel better, such a lady will diminish your value. This is the protective mechanism of the ego. It's easy to confuse self-confidence with arrogance, especially nowadays, when it's a method of masking your complexes. If you notice a frequent rudeness, this is a warning sign. Pride often results in criticism of other people in the absence of meaningful arguments. In short, everybody's bad, and you're the only one who's fair. Of course, it's hard to please anyone. It is clear that different things may not match it and may not fit it. But pay attention to whether he criticizes the situation or the person. If the situation, it's okay. But if people are being criticized, and most of the time it takes the form of defamation, then when the demo version ends, you will also become the object of such criticism, usually unfounded and customary. Therefore, pay attention to how the lady you are interested in relates to other people, and what they say about them, because she's going to talk and behave the same way to you. Another big warning sign is the endless shit tests. As a rule, after some time, as you get to know you, the tests will appear less and less often. They never disappear. But if you have the feeling that you're being tested all the time and you have to walk like on thin ice to not hurt a woman, that's another red flag. Because most of the time, ladies who test non-stop have a confidence problem, which is due to low self-esteem. Maybe they have some bad experiences and want to make sure you're a good person, though. But it also means that such a woman has some untreated personality or emotional problems, traumas that in the future in a relationship will spill on your head. For a long period of time, being constantly tested is very tiring and bad for a relationship with such a person, because she will have difficulty in trusting you. In my opinion, one of the biggest red flags is her mother's attitude to her father. If her father is disrespected by her mother, then the girl from the beginning learns from her mother how to treat a man. For example, she learns that screaming can force a man to do what she wants. His father is a beta male, so his wife doesn't respect him. Also, the absence of a father is a red flag. My father is the first man in her life with whom I'm building a relationship, and if her mother left her father or her father ran away, she'll surely be telling her things like, guys are pigs, or never trust guys because they'll hurt you. Because her mother won't admit that she chose the wrong guy, but she'll blame them for everything. An exception may be if her mother became a widow due to an unfortunate accident, such as a car accident. The opposite situation is that her father excessively distracts her. She never has to try for anything. She has everything from her father at once, and no matter what she did, never bears the consequences. In the future, such behavior will be expected of men because such has a pattern from the very beginning of life. Another warning sign is the very large differences of values and beliefs that you both have. If you are, for example, a quiet domestic, you do not like extreme sports, and you, on the contrary, it is bad for a long-term relationship because after a demo period, as they say, the wolf will drag into the woods, that is, to act in accordance with their values, and this will cause conflicts. Here's a small reservation. It is true that a woman accepts the beliefs of the man she sleeps with, but this only happens when you are the guide of the relationship. If they reconcile the differences of belief in such a way that it is you who will change your rules and submit, then in the future, when the primitive brain will recognize you as the guy you can impose your beliefs on, respect for you will disappear and trouble will begin. I'm sure you've heard the saying that opposites are attracted. The hook is in the word attract. The fact that something attracts as attractive does not mean that it will be good in the long run. Most of the time it's not. I have noticed that it is often the case that the opposites are attracted on the principle of filling up their deficit. That is, we like people who have the qualities that we would like to have ourselves. However, in the long run, common values are needed, because this prevents conflicts of interest, so pay attention to the differences in the beliefs of the newly acquainted lady. The bigger the differences, the more difficult it will be to have a lasting relationship, especially in these days where women do not like to submit to males other than alpha. The next element that you need to pay attention to with newly acquainted women is the convergence of your long-term goals. Of course, first, you have to have these long-term goals, or at least know what you want. It's very important. For example, you want to start a family quickly and you're still in the process of getting along, and she's openly saying she isn't ready for a relationship yet. It's a warning sign. Or another, you intentionally want to live somewhere away from the city, in a cottage near the forest or by the lake. The woman, on the other hand, loves urban life. This, as in the previous paragraph, will generate a conflict of interest. Remember that at the beginning, during the demo period, conflicts will be smoothed out to get you into a relationship. You, as a man, are the guardian of the relationship. Remember that. A conflict of interest at the level of a goal is a huge warning sign because some kind of compromise will have to be made. And for many women, compromise means that we do what she wants and not meet somewhere in the middle. Remember this and pay attention to it. Another red flag appears when a woman mentions her previous relationships and when every time only the boyfriend was to blame, never her. There is a problem with this point. Nowadays, it is very rare for a girl to talk openly about her past because she would have to tell you that she had various bed adventures, and she is perfectly aware that if she had revealed you the real number of partners, then you would run away with horror. In the demo mode, it would not testify about it well, therefore this topic will virtually not be dealt with. Besides, it would raise the question that if there were so many of them, why didn't anyone notice the value in such a woman? Because we assume you find her attractive and valuable. If she's so cool, why doesn't she have a boyfriend or a husband? It's like she hit the Beatles herself. She didn't get it, she just picked it up. The statement that he was hit is most often heretic, that is, distorting the facts. It is for this reason that women nowadays do not raise the subject of their past, and when asked directly, they often react with reluctance or aggression. That's why you need to know. If you're wondering if you hear that phrase about the ex and that it's only their fault and how unfortunate she is that she's got so many assholes, that's a red warning flag. As time passes, at some stage of acquaintance, you will be introduced to her friends or friends. It's kind of casting. Don't hesitate. You will be judged by them, and the conclusions of these friends will come to you in the form of reviews. Use this time to recognize her friends because it's highly likely that they won't pretend to be with you because they don't care about you. And that means they won't be wearing masks, unlike the lady who's the object of your interest. That gives you a certain advantage. Have you heard the saying, whoever matches whom becomes that? If you notice any disturbing traits among her friends, for example, common, ordinary style of being, as before criticism, prejudice, then there is a good chance that the woman also has such traits or behaves similarly. But because it's a demo period, you're not showing this side of reality. Be careful. If her friends are, let's call it, uninteresting, it's a red flag and a warning sign for you. This point also applies to getting to know her family. If her mother dominates her family home, guess what pattern of behavior she will reproduce in her relationship? It doesn't need any more comment. The next point is that gold digger is bad for a long-term relationship because it says a lot about her attitude to what matters to her. It's not you, it's the cash box. The risk is there will always be someone who has more money than you. I hope that this point is obvious. It's a red flag. I also draw attention to ladies, who in the initial stage of acquaintance strongly expose their graces. It's an attractive point, because your primary brain is the first to react. The woman exposing her graces stimulates your primary brain structures because it thus signals readiness and availability for reproduction. And that makes it distract your attention. You will notice this point especially often in clubs where there are many women. They have to stand out somehow from the crowd, so larger and shorter necklaces and skirts are the norm. As long as guys are visionaries and it just works on us, it is a poor prognostic for the quality of such a partner for a long-term relationship. Because if it's provocative, it won't just be for you, it'll be for other men. And that means that such a lady is not modest and is mostly a player because she uses what works on guys and does it consciously. That's why you need to know. Hide the statement that she does it for herself and just to feel better. This is a deliberate attraction, that is, a struggle for attention with other females. And only this will give her a better sense of well-being because it is valued by male attention. These are the rules of the game. Another warning sign is the frequent cancellation of meetings or even the lack of contact. Most often it means that you are not the main option for such a partner and she feels that she can afford someone better. Otherwise, there would be no problems with the meeting. Even if she's very busy, she'd set up a calendar so there's a place to meet you. It could mean you're in a friend zone or it's just keeping you away as a beta orbiter. But in any case, he doesn't take you seriously. It's a warning sign. In such a situation, do not invest much energy in such an acquaintance. Apply the principle of reciprocity, that is, give as much as you get. The other points that are red flags and will appear when you get to know the girl a little closer are the statement that whatever happens, it's never her fault. She never makes a mistake, and most importantly, she never apologizes. I don't think there's a person on this planet who never makes a mistake. That's normal. That's not a problem. The problem is the lack of the ability to recognize and admit your own mistakes. Such statements and lack of ability to admit a mistake most often indicate some psychological problems because they are a mechanism of rejection. They are often caused by low self-esteem, which is thus concealed. This does not look well for the future because there is a high risk that this lack of self-esteem will be reflected on you by continuously diminishing your value in a later relationship. Remember, you will often not even be aware of it, but you will pay the price for it. When you start to pay attention to what you say and compare it to your actions. And remember that actions are more important than words. In the case of women unsuitable for a long-term relationship, you will start to notice lies. Often it will be even small lies, seemingly harmless and irrelevant. You will not even see the meaning and the need to use them because they seem to give no benefit. Lies, even the smallest ones, are a huge red flag. Because if there is no reason to lie and yet it does, it means that it is customary and predicts future problems. The general rule is, if you lie in small things, then you will have no problem lying in big things. So you need to know and be vigilant. Even the ladies themselves say that without trust, you cannot build relationships. So how to build a relationship and trust, if you have lies or reasons not to trust, is a huge red flag. Once you begin to notice lies, the consequence will be to notice double standards. This is another red flag. What else does he say? It will cause you to feel unfair in your relationship because what she does and considers normal will be forbidden to you. If you notice double standards, that is, she can, and others, including you, not. It is a warning sign because sooner or later, because of this, there will be differences of opinion and arguments, and then quarrels and the whole chain reaction until the breakup of the relationship. If you start to perceive these double standards and as a mature person you want to talk to her and tell her that you notice that she says something different and she does something different, then you're most likely going to fall for the next red flag. You can't respect different opinions. This is a direct consequence of the previous point, which is that it is never guilty and never wrong. If your partner is unable to accept that you may have a different opinion about something, it is a huge warning sign that tells you that in the future she will only tolerate things that are in her mind. To be plain, it's a sign that you're dealing with an emotionally immature girl who's kidding her legs if something's wrong with her. I see a perfect analogy in shops. When little children start crying, when parents don't let them put something they want in the cart. It's a sign of great immaturity and egocentrism. What leads to the next red flag? When a candidate for a partner does not know how to respect your differences of opinion, she will often insult you and accuse you, not the merits of the dispute. Maybe and often it will be a subconscious shit test. But if the girl is unable to keep her emotions in charge, it is a warning sign that in the future, she will do exactly the same. The more there will be potential problems, the more it will be insulting you. It's a red flag. It'll only get worse in the future. If you have known a woman for a few weeks or a few months, then most often the phase of the honeymoon or love bombardment is already behind you. Now the real life begins. And if you see that the woman is from scrap, it's a very bad prognosis for the future. Most of the time, it will require you to finance most or all of it. Well, because she's a woman and you, as a man, should cover everything. In real life, this is a very bad sign because it means that you are focused on money, not relationships. Here, you will most often hear that she just didn't take the wallet, that she left the cards in another bag, and so on. But if you do something like that, you will see a huge discontent on her face. It's a sign of princesshood and a fatal attribute to a relationship. The point is not to settle for the dollar, but to maintain a relative balance. In the case of a small and a person, this is impossible. How do you want to build a common house with such a person? If she's scanty in small things, think about how she'll behave when buying decisions for tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars. For example, buying a car or an apartment or a house. Be sensitive to it. The bedroom is the bedroom and the safe is the cash. These are the rules of the game. Another sign that you are not a candidate for a relationship is that you never compromise. It is the result of the previous points. That is a lack of respect for the other. That is your point of view. It's either in her mind or it's not. If you notice this, the warning lamp should light up. If you're just doing what she wants, it's a bad sign because it means you've probably lost determination in your relationship and maybe even more in your life. This is most often the result of psychological castration, which is very often used by gentlemen. The next point associated with the previous one is the ongoing quarrels, disputes, and conflicts. It's a powerful warning sign because it means that there is a struggle for domination or who prefers to pull the rope. This is a sign that the relationship is not partnership but dominant, and you are trying to subdue you through quarrels and the following quiet days. Another red flag is not keeping your word or simply breaking your promises. You know, sometimes something may fail and plans may change. In this case, you will have the impression that it happens over and over often. My observation shows that this is a tactic that is designed to inflict emotional damage on you. Frankly speaking, it's about getting you to suffer. The lady promises you something that will be pleasant for you, and then she won't keep her word. In this way, it will awaken your expectations to then extinguish them. The more often she doesn't keep her word, the less she respects you. It's a red flag. From the above, it follows clearly another. You're intentionally hurting you. He says unpleasant and painful things, not to make yourself better, but to make you suffer and feel bad. If you see this in your relationship, then something is wrong, because a normal, valuable person does not get satisfaction from deliberately hurting and harming other people. The warning signs that I'm going to mention now usually happen at the end of a relationship. If you notice them in your current relationship, using a chess analogy, it's probably the final game. He deliberately mocked and embarrassed you in public. It's almost always hidden under the cloak of a joke. Those are the so-called injured spikes. The form of a joke is designed to hide the maliciousness, because when you realize it and do it, a woman will accuse you that you don't know about jokes and that you have no sense of humor. Don't hesitate. This is deliberate and malicious. If you use this with an open text, it most often means that the other branch is already prepared and is not afraid of the consequences of a breakup because it is prepared for it. Remember, a woman, as a more social creature, attaches much more importance to how other people perceive her. They'll notice her malice, and she knows it, but she doesn't care anymore. Public mocking is a very bad sign. Another huge red flag like sailing is using manipulative techniques against you, mainly guilt-raising and gaslighting. These techniques will be discussed in the next episodes. If you're notoriously seeing them used against you, your relationship is over, but you don't know it yet. A huge, huge red flag. Another powerful warning sign in a relationship is constantly controlling you. You have to explain everything and confess every minute. In the long run, this is unbearable. Well, unless you're already accustomed to being a slave, then you'll bear it somehow. Constant control can be a sign of powerful problems with self-esteem or simply a toxic personality. One thing is certain. If he controls, he doesn't trust, not to mention love. Another point that will let you know that she's not a candidate for a relationship, for a myth until death separates you, is your fear of her explosive reactions. If, for example, when you return to a shared apartment, you do not want to enter the house before you open the door, it is a sign from your subconscious that this relationship does not serve you. Don't ignore that feeling. I know people who wait in the car for long minutes or even hours before entering the house and do not do meditation techniques during this time, only know that nothing pleasant awaits them at home, and therefore try to postpone it in time. If you do, trust your intuition. She's supposed to protect you. The worst thing you can do in this case is to try to silence these feelings, for example, with alcohol. This will not help because the problem is elsewhere. Another more analytical sign of a bad relationship. When you start to analyze your environment and in your circle of friends, you are rather liked. You have friendly or at least correct relationships, and only with a girlfriend or wife you have problems. This is most often a sign that you are not the problem. In other words, if only she has eternal claims to you and other friends treat you kindly, it's a warning sign. The last red flag that will occur most often is any signs of emotional instability or mental disorder. Powerful, extreme mood swings can mean, for example, border disturbances, lack of ability to control their emotions and impulses, a huge inclination to risk, aggression, including physical. That's a bad deal for a stable relationship every time. In conclusion, if you are interested in a long-term relationship, you need to know what to avoid and what to look for. In the real world, there are no women who do not show such qualities at all. If you want to increase the chance of building a lasting relationship, then look for those that betray as little such behavior as possible. When from the very beginning you betray a lot, or all of the mentioned signs, it will simply be worse over time. That's why these behaviors are called red flags, because they're meant to warn you about what's going to happen next. Of course, those whose goal is not a long-term relationship but only access to the bedroom do not care about it, because they know in advance that they will not have to endure such behavior for years, because there is a different strategy. They are, for example, at the stage of enjoying what life has to offer. If, on the other hand, the goal is to find a candidate for a lasting relationship, then you need to know what to avoid. And let the physical attractiveness of the lady do not blind your eyes. My observations show that at present, unfortunately, at least 50% or 70% of women are not suitable for long-term relationships and family building, mainly because of their character traits and inability to build a long relationship, and above all, inability of trust. A relationship is a compromise and also sacrifices, not pleasure itself. In the case of a compromise, you have to trust that the other person will keep his word and his part of the agreement. A lack of this skill or a lack of a basis for trust is not the basis for a successful relationship. If you want a normal relationship, avoid women who send warning signals with their behavior. Pay attention to what is, to the facts, not to the appearances and your expectations. Don't idealize a girl just because she showed interest in you. In matters that are important to you, test. And if you do not meet your expectations, then do not deceive yourself that something will change. Usually it doesn't change. Instead, just keep looking. Remember, ladies are the guards of the bedroom, but you're the watchmen of the relationship. Good luck.